Hey guys, this is Casey Hamlin with Integrity Mortgage, and I'm here with Mike Mullett from Canoe Realty. And Mike, I'm curious. I want to learn more about Blue Canoe. What can you tell me?
Sure. So I started Canoe Realty in 2019. I've been a realtor since 2005, and I just felt like it was a really great opportunity to go out on my own as an independent, broker. Mm-hmm. What I've found is that it really lets me focus on my clients and their needs, not necessarily my agency, and worrying about home office and trying to get permission to do some things that sometimes you have to get creative in real estate. I found that with this agency, first of all, there's nobody between me and my clients, so there's no assistants that I work with. If you hire me, then you get me. You call me. If you have questions, I answer them, or I go ahead and research them for you. I like that better, and I find that people that I work with enjoy that experience better.
So you don't have like a big team. I mean, everybody gets to work with you.
Correct. Everybody that I work with works with me. I don't sign people and then pass you off onto somebody with less experience. And again, being kind of a solo, agent the way that I am, we do have people who work with us, but generally when I get people who want to come work with me, they want to work with me because they know me. So I like that relationship. I like learning about people and then really trying to match them with a house or a property or a condo that works for them. For me, that really is the most satisfying thing, making sure that at the end of that transaction, they're happy, they felt like they had a really good experience, and then I can, I've got more experience to go help other people. So
that's great.
Yeah, it's fun. It's the other thing that I, in doing real estate the way that I have, I have developed contacts, again, with good lenders like you. I like to send people to people who know what they're doing. And so when I get a pre-approval letter from somebody like you, I know full well that I can go make an offer and not worry. I have, we all get people who have their own lenders, and, I've had problems with other lenders. So I like to find people that I like. I can refer people. I know they're going to do a good job. Again, same thing with people like inspectors or contractors, or there's plenty of people who do all these jobs, but I like to try to match them, my client, with people who I think they're going to work well with.
Right. Yeah, having that trust.
Yep.
And the people that you're working with.
Yep.
Super important when it comes to real estate and such a big investment.
It is, and it is a huge investment. And the other thing that I find about real estate is that it's an odd thing people don't think about, but it is really emotional. And it really is. So I have a background in social work and education. I really thought I was going to work in education forever. But what I really find is that background helps me more than any education I've done. So being able to kind of read people, work with them through all the emotional ups and downs, even as simple as you've made an offer on a house and you didn't get it. That can be one of the most upsetting times for people. And a lot of times they'll stop looking. So just from an emotional experience like that, it can really impact their search. Yep. So again, I like to kind of be there, work with people, help them understand, you're going to have highs and lows. The most important thing that I've told people, especially over these past few years with this pandemic, is that the most successful buyers are the buyers who don't give up. So it's easy to give up when you find a house, you love that house, and you make an offer on that house and you don't get it. Right? It's very easy to quit. But the reality is that the person who got that house, that might have been their 16th offer or their 10th offer. So the truth is you just have to be consistent. You have to be persistent. And it will happen. It's just a matter of kind of continuing at it. So
yeah, it's a great message. Persistence pays, right?
It absolutely does, especially in real estate.
Yeah, absolutely. So tell us what you're seeing in the market right now as far as activity, opportunities.
Very good questions. So generally, the winter market tends to be a little slower and a little quieter, and that is certainly what we have found this year. Obviously, as you guys know, rates have gone up for mortgages, so that, in my opinion, what that has done is it has taken recreational buyers out of the market. So that before that happened, we really would have so many people looking at property and making offers on property. It was almost problematic. You would really have to really sort through them and really figure out which one would work. It's getting to the point now where if there's a buyer out there and they want to look at a property, they're serious.
Right.
It's not easy to go look at property in February and March and May. It just isn't. It's very easy in July and August when it's gorgeous out, and hey, we'll just pop by this beautiful condo. So buyers out there are serious when the weather is not as great, no doubt about it. And they're also serious because they know rates are a little higher. So again, they may end up having to refinance down the road when they find a great house, but that is the truth, that it is a little bit of a harder landscape. The nice thing is that before there were so many buyers compared to very few sellers. So now we've lost some of those buyers. The last thing we need for this market now to happen is for the number of sellers to tick up. So when that gets up closer to the number of buyers, then you approach what, people refer to as a more level market, or, that's what people want, because as buyers, then you feel like you had a good, fair opportunity to purchase the house. Hopefully you got an opportunity to do due diligence and do inspections, right? Those are some of the things that weren't happening before that it's moving more in that direction. So it's becoming a little more fair for buyers, I think is a good way to put it. It's still a great time to sell. And that's the other thing that I think people need to understand. There are absolutely serious buyers out there. And with fewer of them, they're not competing as much with each other. So hopefully you get some fair offers and, you sell your home still at a good price.
That's a great point. Great point. So where are you seeing opportunities?
That's a good question. I really do believe great opportunity for sellers. And it's hard because, people are going to perceive that we're trying to sell them, but it is the truth, is that when inventory is low, and inventory is low everywhere, in Southern Maine in particular, you have an opportunity because you have less competition, right? So that is really a good opportunity. I think this spring and summer, I think will be a really good opportunity. And the buyers that I'm working with are also kind of seeing that. It is interesting. I'm getting more and more questions and requests from investors. So their perception, a lot of people's perception, is that, when is the market is going to crash, right? Suddenly prices are going to come down, and then we're going to jump in and we're going to see foreclosures. I haven't seen any of that happen yet. I'm still seeing property that is getting multiple offers. There's no doubt there are foreclosures out there on the market. But again, I haven't seen them in anywhere near the numbers that we saw in 08, 09, not even close. For the most part, people that we're seeing have equity in their house. As long as they're pricing it fairly, they're selling. They're not. And we haven't seen days on the market extend much either. So houses are coming on the market. They're getting sold quickly. People are still having deadlines for offers. When those things start to go away, I think then you're seeing a more level market.
Right.
We're just not there yet.
So we're seeing sellers or homeowners with more equity in their house than they ever have.
Yep.
We're seeing serious buyers.
Correct.
Right. We're not seeing the feeding frenzy as much.
Correct.
In buyers. So, sounds like an excellent opportunity to, test the market if you're a seller.
And that's exactly right. Testing the market is also a great way to put that. A lot of people believe that once they put it on the market, they have to sell. Other people, I just heard this last week from somebody who is thinking about listing. They're nervous about putting it on at any price because they believe if they got an offer at that price, they have to sell it, which couldn't be further from the truth, right?
Interesting.
But that perception is kind of out there anyway. So again, always a good opportunity for sellers to just have a conversation with people, like us. Talk about the market, talk about their specific property. Are there things about it that would make it unique? There's a lot of great opportunity in Maine real estate. And I'm one of the things that I see, and I think a lot of brokers see, is out-of-state interest. And there truly are people all around this country and around the world who see that opportunity in Maine. Maine is growing. It really is.
Right.
Many parts of Maine, there's different markets in Maine. One of them in particular is, I would say, the Biddeford-Saco market. It wasn't very long ago that wasn't considered a very strong market. Now you see that market is, I think, as strong as the greater Portland market, right? Lewiston-Auburn is really growing. I think Bath Brunswick is really growing. I've never seen the number of people be interested in kind of the Bath Brunswick area as we have in these last few years. Clearly, people can work from home, right? So they're able to kind of get out into the more rural areas. So to get back to the question you asked a long time ago, that's kind of where I see a lot of the opportunity is kind of the emerging markets. Right. I think Sanford is probably an emerging market.
I'd agree with that.
Yeah, I mean, so a lot of those areas, I think, as we do get people from out of state, I like to be very honest with them and say, look, you could certainly look in areas like Greater Portland, but maybe consider an emerging market, Lewiston, Auburn, the Sanford, Biddeford, all those areas.
Right.
That's where people are going to go next because that's where there's room and that's where there's growth. So
a little more affordable.
Definitely more affordable right now.
Yep.
Although it is shocking when you go into some of those areas where you always thought of as being affordable. And, a lot of them are growing some really great neighborhoods, right? So those prices are really kind of coming up and really helping the whole town, really. So, yeah, I think it's going to be an interesting year in real estate, kind of exciting. And we certainly, as all real estate agencies do, we're always kind of looking for good agents, whether they're experienced agents or whether they're just people who like real estate and like people, more importantly. So again, that's something that we're always willing to talk to people about as well.
Cool. So I get this question every now and then from buyers. Why should I use a realtor to help me buy?
Yep.
What's your advice on that?
There's a lot of answers to that. I think I personally would never ever try to buy real estate without using a broker.
Right.
I just wouldn't. And again, the analogy I use is the car industry. Right.
Right.
If you go in to buy a car, there's nobody on your side. Literally nobody. There's a salesperson, but they work for the dealership. Right.
Right.
Used to be that exact same way in real estate. Right. There was no representation for that buyer. The seller had all the representation. So at some point, right, that changed in Maine. So now where you're legally able to hire somebody to represent you who does this every day, I've had over 250 transactions since 2005. I haven't seen everything, but I've seen a lot of stuff. Mm-hmm. So not only can I anticipate some things, but I can give people advice about how to avoid problems right from the beginning. And then if things pop up, somebody, a buyer agent who has had some good experience can deal with it quickly, get things resolved. Similarly, if you decide that property isn't the right one for you, it's awfully helpful to have an experienced person there to help you get out of it, right? Correctly. Get your earnest money back, kind of all that stuff. So the real answer to that question, I would say, is if somebody has put a property up on the MLS, they've factored into that sale money for a buyer's agent.
Right. If
you opt not to use a buyer's agent, you're simply paying that listing agent twice to not represent you. And that's insanity. It really is. Yeah. People have this perception that they're going to be able to negotiate down because they don't have a buyer's agent. When I'm that listing agent in that situation, I'm not negotiating down.
Right.
We already listed at a certain number. So
right.
There's a lot of answers. I mean, for one thing, I think if you have tried to buy property on your own, what you realize is there's just a lot of tasks, right? There's paperwork, there's things to get back and forth. You're going to get requests if there's a lender involved, as you know. You're going to get requests frequently for documents and, all that stuff. So, again, it's just always good to have an experienced person on your side.
Yeah. I can't tell you how many times when we deal with for sale by owners and the buyer doesn't have representation where, there's, miscommunications or, like you said, they're dealing with deadlines and the buyers look to us for guidance and we're really not in that field to do so. Yep. So it makes it just a little more stressful. It makes it, it's just not as easy of a transaction.
Yep. I totally agree.
There's realtors involved.
Well, and it's funny when you say that with a traditional transaction where there's a buyer with a buyer agent, a seller with their agent, and then there's a lender. There are roles and tasks that we all get very used to in that situation, right? The buyer agent does certain things. So when one of those people isn't involved in the transaction, either those things don't get done or people who don't normally do them are trying to kind of patch it together. It's just not the ideal way, right. to get things done. Everything's doable. And again, we're all professionals. We're going to make it happen. But again, if you can get somebody involved who knows what they're doing, hopefully they're good at what they do. Yeah. And that can communicate well. Obviously, that's the key part, right? Keeping people updated and all that stuff. That always helps. So,
cool. All right. One last question for you. If you are a potential seller out there, what's one piece of advice you give them in the market that we're in now?
That's a really good question. One of the things I would tell people is to be really cautious about online sites that promise to value your property, right?
Okay.
There's a lot of sites out there that you can hop onto and do an automatic, whatever they call it, that particular site. Sure. I don't want to name any of them. However, I get calls from people all the time who are like, I'm pretty excited. I just saw that my house is worth this. And I'm like, this is going to be the most challenging day, right? Having that part of it is tough. So my advice for sellers would be to talk to a broker in that market in particular who knows, what has been going on in that market. I've seen those online valuations change day to day, right? One day they're 700,000 and the next they're 450, and the seller's getting mad at us, or
it's kind of like the mortgage calculators are online that assume a 20% down payment,
right?
But that's in the fine print. So when we have to,
tell them the truth,
it's kind of it can be a kind of a rude awakening for some people.
And that's the hard part for us, is that put us into the bad news guy position, right?
Sure.
I want to give you the good news of you have a great property. It's worth a good amount of money.
Absolutely.
Everybody's equity's been rising. The only way to really give a good valuation to a seller is to do what an appraiser is going to do, is to look at real comparable sales, right?
Right.
Nobody has access to that except, people who do it for a living and on a regular basis. So that's the truth. That's the exact advice I would give sellers, is talk to a professional. No, you're not obligated to do anything until you go and sign a purchase and sale agreement. So get all the information that you can. Talk to some good professionals, and if it's time, your house will sell if you price it correctly. And that's the other message I think that sellers need to hear. If you price it correctly, it absolutely will sell. There's not properties languishing on our market that are priced correctly, right? There's a reason why those ones are kind of waiting. So, price it correctly, understand the condition of your property. So if it's not primo, in great shape, you can't be comparing it to the house next door that was in great shape. Those are just the truths that buyers know when they show up at houses.
Right.
So our obligation is to tell sellers the truth. This is what buyers are going to see. Your carpet, needs to be replaced, or whatever.
Yeah. Well, those are great tips.
Yeah.
There you have it, guys. Mike Mullett, Blue Canoe Realty. Every client I've worked with that works with them is a raving fan. Sign up with them. You won't regret it.
Appreciate it.